Hi, I'm Novel Mike, and today let's talk about Mighty Number 9. I backed Mighty Number 9. I don't even remember how much I gave. I know I was supposed to get some kind of physical rewards. Never heard about it. Largely given up that I ever will see any of it. Not that I really care anymore, because Mighty Number 9 is just not a very good game. When I went into this, after hearing all these negative things and seeing some videos about it, about just gameplay and just how it just wasn't very good, I wanted to find something in the game that was good. And what I found is that there is somewhere in this game there is a good game, but it's not the game we have. When certain mechanics work, like this dash mechanic where you damage enemies, and when you do enough damage you dash into them and finish them off, and you can get like temporary power-ups from it. Like when you can do combos and stuff like that, when you're dashing into multiple enemies and you're going and just running through the stage and defeating enemies like really in quick succession with the blaster and the dash mechanic, it can be really fun. As can the boss fights. Some of the boss fights are really good. Others not so much, but there is some good to be found in this game. Unfortunately, the few things that are good don't even come close to how bad so many things of the game are. The first thing that you'll notice when you play the game is it just looks ugly and dated. It looks like a Dreamcast game. It doesn't look like it even would fit on last-gen systems, let alone 2 systems ago. And it looks nothing like the original concept art anymore. Like the original concept art made it look very much like a Mega Man-esque game. This looks more like Mega Man X7, X8. There's really, really bad cel-shaded 2D, 2.5D, whatever the heck they wanted to call them. Those were awful. And it pains me that a game that actually could be considered really good has so many things wrong with it. And it's not just that it looks bad. Like the sound is, some of the music's okay, but it's very lackluster overall. The storyline is terrible. The voice acting is like some of the worst I've heard in probably a decade. For some reason, the Call character, Beck's little like assistant robot girl, role was to Mega Man in the original series. That's what Beck and Call rock and roll, that kind of thing. And she, for whatever reason, is monotone. I don't understand the choice with that, since every other robot in the in the game has some kind of weird expressive personality. They aren't very fun to listen to, and they're very bad cartoony sounding, but at the very least there is personality, but Call has none. I don't understand if that was just a really dry delivery, whoever did the voice lines, or if she was intended to be that way. Seems more like she was intended to be that way, which I don't get. But regardless, then you have the level design. As I said, the bosses themselves are pretty fun to play. For some of them have really good mechanics, and there's quite a lot of good. You'll be jumping and shooting just like you want to do in a Mega Man game. You'll be dashing away from enemies, dodging attacks, that kind of thing. And it feels like you can, deal out a lot of damage relatively quickly on certain bosses. And it's all about, learning their patterns. And that part feels like a Mega Man game. Some of the bosses are not so great, like the second one where she does the stupid ice thing, and it's just not fun to lose control of your character so constantly if you get hit by things. But the biggest problem of the game is its stage design. So before you get to any of the bosses, you have to go through some really long stages. And most of the time you'll have several checkpoints within the stages, but there's so many instant death mechanics that it just doesn't make any sense for how they design the levels, because there's this one part in Mighty Number 3 stage where you have these little gravitational things, and if you run into them, you die. So you have to learn. So you get to one point, you get used to dodging them, and then it tells you, oh hey, hint, here you need to crouch dash. And I did that, and I still died, because the hit detection can be pretty wonky at times. And at first I thought I just didn't do a crouch dash. There was no, like, it just says hint, use crouch dash. It doesn't tell you how to do it, and there's no other time in the game that I've seen so far that you actually have to use a crouch dash. And I've played almost every stage at this point, and there's only one of them I actually liked, which was the DLC stage, mostly because it's several boss fights with the same character in short stages. But the way that the enemies are placed in the stage, 9 times out of 10, instead of fighting them, you're better off just running past them to try to get to the next checkpoint. Because if you try to kill them, most of the time you're going to take damage. Either because you'll do enough damage and you want to dash into them to finish them off, but there's enemies like right behind them, and so the moment you dash into one enemy, another enemy hits you, or they'll recover and still hit you as you're dashing into them, or again, the hit detection at times. I've had parts where I'm shooting a guy, he changes his color so you dash into him, and I hit him with it, but it registers a hit on me first before the dash takes effect. I get knocked back and I died. That is just bad game design. Like, if you're going to have a knockback mechanic and the invincibility for your character is so limited that you can't recover from things, it feels like one of those poorly designed NES platformers at times, which is not what Mega Man is really about. I mean, the old Mega Mans are severely dated by this point, but they still function as a whole, and especially with the hit detection, a lot better than this game does. So it makes me sad to say that this game is just not very good. It's unfortunate because I do think that if the game just had not gotten anywhere near as much money as it did, and they didn't try to make it for every platform in the world and try to add all these extra features and stuff, and they just focused on a singular game with, you know, good level design and good boss mechanics, forget the story. It's stupid, it's boring, it's non-existent as far as I'm concerned, and it's actually not non-existent, it's actually very aggravating to have to hear so much about it. But what is here could be good if it was given the proper time to really flesh out and iron out all the bugs, but unfortunately after being delayed for multiple years for bullshit reasons, it seems like, that's not going to happen at this point. This is the game we got, and unfortunately for Keiji Inafune, I think this really damages his reputation, more so than anything else. He was called the father of Mega Man, and now it's pretty much looked at, oh no, he really wasn't, he was just a producer that got lucky, essentially. And that is unfortunate for him because he's got other games coming out. ReCore is a game supposedly he's working on, and the marketing of that has not mentioned him since pretty much the announcement because there's so much backlash about it. And I just want there to be more Mega Man games. Mega Man games are fun. I love the X series. I love the originals. I love Battle Network. Those are great. They're cartoony and kiddie as all hell, but they're great. And the Zero series as well, amazing, and those are super hard, much harder than this is. And it just feels like they almost could have had it if they just didn't spend so much time working on all these different versions of the game they had to put out, because they clearly didn't have the manpower to do it, and some of the versions aren't even out yet, like the portable versions, the 360 versions, 360 version, and then the Wii U version is completely borked with frame rate dips, and it's almost unplayable, and they're still selling it, and it's just crazy to me that how badly this turned out because they tried to do too much. I think that's a lesson to be learned with Kickstarter games, is that I backed several Kickstarters, including Yooka-Laylee, which comes out later, next year, and I want that game to be really good, but I want them to make sure that they don't overstretch what they're actually able to accomplish, and that's just the lesson to be learned. Pay attention to what the goals are. If the stretch goal is trying to bring it to every platform in the world for, like, not $10 million or more, which it will never reach, it's probably not going to end up being that great because they're going to spread their resources too thin to try to get it on every platform. But Mighty Number 9 is a good example of something that could be great. It's just unfortunate that it didn't turn out that way. I do think that overall there are some elements like it, and I can see why people would, if you can get into it, like really dive in and get used to the mechanics and used to the really bad hit detection, you might enjoy it. But for me, I have a lot more games I could be playing that are much better that are more worth my time than Mighty Number 9 is.
Ahead and choose.
I'm Novel Mike. As always, that's my
VR training
opinion.
program
Have a great day,
applies.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Care to try it?